Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Triple ID Conversations. My name is Veronica Egger, and I'm really pleased to welcome Mihály Minkó with us today. He's a lecturer, design researcher, and practitioner at the Data Storytelling Hub at Moholy-Nagy University in Budapest, Hungary. He works at the frontiers of data visualization. He not only creates digital representations of data, but also creates physical data installations for museums and the urban environment. He's passionate about using data visualization to shed light on hidden processes in society and make social issues visible. Mihály, thank you for coming. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Veronica. Good evening. Let me share my screen, and so we can jumpstart to the presentation that I prepared. Okay, there it is. Can you see my screen?
Yes, all there, thank you.
Super. So today I'm going to talk about basically how can we unfold the hidden patterns and structures of news editing and the principles behind news editing with the power of data or information visualization. And this is going to be a really specific case study that I brought together on the Hungarian evening news public media program. And just to give some context to my motivation, here in Hungary we have a very specific media situation, I would say, because the public media isn't really unbiased. It's kind of basically rolls toward the current ruling party, Fidesz, and it's really difficult to provide some kind of evidence that there is a hidden purpose or propagandistic intent behind news editing. And one of my motivation was to uncover these news editing structures that are otherwise invisible, basically, and to show that yes, it is suspicious, at least, that there's some kind of a special intent behind those. The work itself is focusing on 1 month period of public media evening news broadcast. It's M1 híradó, M1 news broadcast, which is like every night at 7:30 here in public media. And I also would like to put it into a context of other researchers' work, basically, that happened previously. So there are two main frameworks within which I intend to place basically the questions that I raised, and also try to frame the answers as well. These two theoretical frames are the populism and the propaganda. The first one is based on the very good, very famous book of Ernesto Laclau's on populist reason, which describes basically how populist regimes become and how those evolve over time, what are the specificities of those systems. And he says in that book that one of the very strong signs of a populistic regime is that there is an emergence of antagonistic opposition in society, which breaks down the whole society to two parts, to us and them. And them is always some kind of a mass which is against us, the traditional, the enclosed, and so on and so forth. And them is something from abroad, from outside, from the outside world, which has a threatening aspect towards us. And what you can see on the right-hand side is a poster that was all around the country in 2018, big government billboard that has very, very simple, I would say, like imagery. One of them is a stop sign, and the other one is a mass of asylum seekers, men mostly in a flow, like you can't really see the individual, just is just a mass flowing into the country. And the government, and there is a small information at the top which says it's government information. So government information is basically just a stop sign and a mass of men. Very, very simple communication, but it breaks down to us and them. And so we need to stop them, right? The other important publication is Herman and Chomsky's work, Manufacturing Consent, the Political Economy of the Mass Media, which describes the filters of mass media, basically, that can be used to manipulate or change basically how mass media operates and channel some kind of an intent or a message or a predefined set of information. So that's how it works. There are some very interesting concepts that basically are related to how the media works in different settings. And as you can see here, there are some kind of processes that guarantee to the government that it can control the media. So the first one is these filters is ownership. So government controls the public media here in Hungary, and therefore it has an ownership over it. So it can be a little, it's really heavily biased in favor of government policies and narratives. And basically, it is an instrument promoting state agenda. And what the billboard said, that's state agenda, because that said that it's government information. So therefore, the public media is just an instrument promoting this. The second one for these filters, the advertising, because government spends a lot of money in the mass media. In the public media, they basically provide all the money for the public media actors, and also not just public but private media. Like there is a TV that's half of the income comes from the government. So that's, I wouldn't say it's unbiased. So government funding comes from the money comes from the government. So that's an opportunity through the threat of budget cuts to pressure public media. Actually here the budget increases over time pretty much. So the public media conglomerate gets more and more money every year because it serves its purpose. So the public media therefore aligns more closely with the government's narrative. Sourcing, what the government says should be, or it seems to be, an official source, and public media relies on these official sources, but sometimes these are not really trustful sources. So and also they pick often those experts that basically also parrot the state agenda, the propaganda. Flack, which is kind of a political pressure. So politicians can apply pressure on the editing principles and editors by threats, not so visible threats, of course. Anti-ideology, this is the fifth filter, which is the promotion of government ideology. Basically, so the prevailing government ideology is promoted through public media to garner support and suppress opposing ideas or alternative viewpoints. You don't really often see representatives of the opposition in the Hungarian public media. If you see them, it's not an interview, it's just a cut piece of you see they say something, but you don't really hear what they say. They just talking heads, and someone, a narrator, translates their words to something more understandable for the average Hungarian public media consumer. So that's pretty much they are not there actually. There are some previous works that try to crack this problem. One of them was a great article from Terestjény in 2007, who basically compared TV news programs, and that's a comparative analysis, and it's a really thorough analysis. But it wasn't about sentiment. It was more like content related analysis. Attila Bátorfi made a great visualization among many other great visualizations that shows how public and private media changed, and how a lot of different media became government or state owned or state influenced, basically. So as you can see, all these red parts of the pie charts are growing, which means that state or yes, government ties are growing and getting stronger and stronger, and more different media outlets belong to some kind of government owned or represented company or something like that. What I did, I annotated, as I mentioned, these news media items for 1 month, and then I visualized the annotation. So this is one example on the left, how it looks and how to read it. So as you can see, you can read one visualization clockwise, starting from 12 at the top, and there is the legend on the left hand side. So these wedges are colored according to the sentiment, so negative, positive, or neutral, and then are going all around the clock, and the wedge width is according to the width of the length of the given news item that was aired throughout, I don't know, this is 2019, 1st of September. This was the whole was 49 minutes long, and it consists of 22 different news items. The thicker wedge shows that it's international news, and the thinner shows that it's domestic. And also the small dots in the inside or the inner part are those indicate if the news item was related to government, to opposition, to migration, or to something else, like another category, because I was focusing on these three topics basically, and I wanted to see how these are represented in the news, and what was more interesting, what is the general sentiment of these news items. So how do I feel when I watch a public media evening news? Do I feel good? Do I feel bad? What is the flow of one news item? You can see many, actually 25 on the right hand side. So as you can see, these are pretty much different in a way, but also similar in many ways. And we'll get back to those similarities. So the annotation was quite fun. If I would be funny, I would say it was quite fun, but it wasn't. I watched all those 30-ish news media items and annotated them according to what the focus was, what the topic was, and if it was positive or negative, and what was the duration, and so on and so forth. So I got a pretty good data set, basically. The annotation categories were, as I mentioned, sentiment, so positive, negative, or neutral. Topic, so the government / Fidesz, the ruling party, or opposition, or migration, or other. Now I started to annotate the items from last month, basically, last September, and it seems that war will be a new topic category. Also the focus, if it's domestic or international. So very simple set of annotation, nothing complex, just these. As it turned out, I annotated 713 news items, out of which 31% was negative, 35% was positive, and 32% was neutral. So this is pretty much a balanced view, right? So I mean, positive, negative, and neutral almost in the same ratio. That's quite good. I mean, if I were a BBC representative, I would be happy. But if we go down a little bit, dig into the details, well, we can see that it's something else. So the negative news were almost about the opposition or migration, and the positive news were 95% about government. So this is, I wouldn't say it's unbiased, right? To visualize the information, I used processing, which is a great library. I don't know if you know it. If you don't, you should check it. It's really, really easy to learn. And now it has a web implementation, p5.js, JavaScript framework. This is for designers. One can do very beautiful, very nice interactive things, generative things with it. So it's a very nice library. As for the visual metaphor, I use the circle, and I really love Manuel Lima's books, Book of Trees, Book of Circles in this case, which has quite a lot of beautiful examples and also uncovers the structure of circular visualizations, which is a very useful inspiration or starting point if one would like to do such a thing. So I already described how the visualization works. This is a single visualized news item. These are the small multiples that basically show that, okay, if we would like to understand more the details, then let's see. It seems that many cases, the news media, news items start with something negative, right? So it's almost 1/4 of an evening news goes with something, well, starts with something bad. Something bad happened, something bad happened, something bad happened, something bad happened always abroad. Something bad abroad. So conclusion is that the outside world is dangerous. So whatever happens outside is bad. Okay, but what happens here in Hungary? What is good then, right? So the purple is good. You don't see the dots in this scale. It's a bit too small, but I can assure you that it is related to government. So everything which is good and happens homeland, that is related to the government. What else, right? So it's a very simple pattern, but and of course you can get a grasp when you watch just one evening news here. But if you see it, if you see multiple next to each other, then it's just editing and it's just propaganda, right? So if I juxtapose these onto each other, you can see that this is something like very much starts with almost all the time with something bad that happened abroad, happened outside of the borders of Hungary, then something in between, again, something bad, something negative, but in this case, most of the cases here, it's within the borders, mostly opposition, and then something very good, right? So that's government, ruling party, or something like that in the country, and we can be sure that when it's over, it's always something good, just to be prepared for the next news media, where again we will be shocked how migrants kill other people in other countries, which is very sad, but it's like this is a tendency. I also created like a unit chart out of these items, and this shows pretty much again what I described. So how the distribution goes with positive and negative items, relation to the government, the opposition, migration. So the opposition is bad at home, the migration is bad abroad, and the government is good at home and of course abroad too, but they don't really go abroad, right? So we know that. I really would like to continue, and I already started to continue to the process, maybe 2024, like this year, the current year, September, maybe COVID or something like that, and maybe other sources from other countries to compare how it works there, because it's interesting. We don't really get a script book for the news media, right? So we don't really see how those editing principles work out. What I did, and for that I will sorry. So this was a presentation, but I brought something that maybe helps discussion. This is a little, and I will unblur my screen. This is a little bracelet that you can see here that we made with my partner. And this bracelet shows something similar. This shows information from Hirado website. Each day one bead on the row, so the horizontal, and that's a week basically, and it takes a lot of weeks, as you can see. So there is a gray one somewhere there, yeah, that separates 2 years. So this is the Russian-Ukrainian war when it started, and the red dots are news items about the status of the Russian army. So basically news issued by Russia and parroted by Hungarian news media. And you can guess what the yellow beads are. Those are the Ukrainian news that are shown in the Hungarian media. I checked the Ukrainian Ministry of Military or Army. They issue news every 3 hours. So it's not that they don't have any news to show to the Hungarian audience. This is an editing principle. They don't want to show news from the Ukrainian army. They would like to inform us about the Russian counterpart, unfortunately, and show the narrative of the Russian army, which is clearly visible here, and it's a very, very sad thing. So this was my presentation. I hope you liked it. It was a bit short maybe, but I hope it was interesting. So if you have any questions or comments, then please, I'm listening.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Interesting as always. One thing that struck me about the foreign news, do you think it will change with the Hungarian role in the European Union they're taking the lead in the European Union for the next 6 months. It will be interesting to see how the foreign news will change in that context.
Actually, we are the leaders now. So this is we are already in that 6 months, and it's not at all. I just annotated 5 days of news media, and it's even worse.
Oh.
Yeah, it is even worse. So the first day of September, half of the news media is about negative news from outside, and 5 minutes is about the school year started stuff. So 5 minutes, 40 minutes, the whole media, whole news, and like 20-25 minutes about migrants in Germany and the Russian war in Ukraine.
So, I'm not at all surprised that news from other countries is bad news, because that's the same everywhere. The only reason you'd know about it, we don't routinely get news from Canada, but if there's a train crash in Canada, we'll hear about it, won't we? Or so that's sort of natural. I think the opposite is not so natural, which is I don't think we really get news we don't get good news from the government here. But basically, well, maybe there is no good news from the government, but I don't think we get, I think that the atmosphere here generally is that journalists will question the government, and so the government, in fact, is usually presented in a skeptical light. They announce this, but hang on, what about this? So I'd be, you mentioned one of the things you'll do next is compare with other countries. I think that's essential. I think your data really is almost only meaningful if you can compare with a country where perhaps the news media is not controlled by the government, where it's controlled by, like in America or UK, there's the BBC, which is supposed to be balanced, and so every report will have, will try to get both sides. So I don't know whether that's positive or how you classify that. Also, a lot of newspapers are owned by rich people like Rupert Murdoch, or so they'll push that person's agenda, which is generally tends to be on the right, but it's a different kind of thing. So I'd like to see the data.
Yeah, that's my plan to do. That's my plan to do. And I'm also curious, because this is really, really strong thing. And what struck me is that it always starts with some bad news. So it's like an Orwellian structure that, okay, just be afraid, just really be scared, and then government comes, and the government, the ruling party will say some good news about our internal situation, what happens in the country, what they built, what they gave to the public, and so on and so forth. So this is playing with emotions of the masses through this structure. It's very interesting, and it's really interesting to uncover it, to show it.
I'm curious to see, if it is in other countries. My suspicion is that our news media here in Canada, our stories start with negative news too, as a way of grabbing attention. It's always the latest car crash or bad news story. So that's just a comment. And I think my other comment was going to be around what controls the media here, and I wonder how much it's advertising or corporate dollars, and how that influences what gets published or shown. I'm curious if there's any way to annotate for that, look for the influence of advertising or on the stories that we hear.
There's a very beautiful network, and I unfortunately cannot recall the author who deep dive into that part of the structure of the media, ownership, and relationships between these. But for public media, there shouldn't be any money. Basically, because it's public, so it shouldn't be. It's not like the other one, like private media, where advertisers pay for screen time and so forth. So and also owners influence like Rupert Murdoch or Elon Musk lately, like on X, heavily influences the narratives and the discussion. And the main purpose of public media should be that it's unbiased, it's truthful, it tries to show both sides, and like car crashes, natural catastrophes, yes, those are negative feelings, but those belong to the other category in my case. So
right.
Here there is a purposeful like representation of this threat from the outside, which is migration, and against which our government provides a safe space, border wall, and so on and so forth. And that is a very, very specific topic, just one topic that always comes back.
And that's interesting. Is explained to me a bit. I was a little bit about the difference between negative and positive, and how, you know, whether we talk about car crashes, that's bad news, but is it there's something else going on, isn't there? There's the news is the events are bad and the attitude is bad, or the and I wonder if it's multi-layered there, and then you need to it's what's really effective about your visualizations is, oh look, all the positive stuff is about the government, oh look, all the negative stuff is about abroad, and that is a fantastic sort of, you know, macro trend. But there's just a little bit of me thinking, well, hang on, yeah, as we have this conversation, you know, dam bursts, that's negative, right? Or is it just bad news? Or is it, I mean, it would be negative if, for example, there was a corrupt contractor who was responsible for the dam burst by using cheap concrete, for example, and that, or if and that's the sort of thing that only happens abroad. Yeah, so it's interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a very good question, because it's very difficult to annotate actually these news, and that's why I really didn't go to another news media outlet. I don't know, to BBC or German, because I don't speak German that good. Maybe with English I could go on, but for example, Serbian or Czech or Polish news media outlets, I would need a partner in crime to annotate those for me in Poland or in Serbia, and so on and so forth. But going back to the actual question, so the negative things, basically how I feel when I just see the news. In the case of war, it's war. It doesn't matter if they say that, okay, Russia should they don't really say that Russia should go back to Russia, or the Russians should go back to Russia, but they are kind of balanced in the television, not in the paper, but in the television. They are balanced, but still, those are bad things that happen there. Those are really bad things. And the good on the internal and good side of the story, if, for example, the school started, and there was a funny way of starting the school for disabled kids, but there was someone, a representative from the government, who stood by and gave a speech for 2 minutes, and it turned out that they were financing this event, but it was just a really, really small part of the news. I annotated it as positive and for the government, because the guy was there, the representative was there, even just I don't know, 10 seconds, just 2 words, 2 sentences, whatever. But the viewer connects these two, that okay, something good happened with these kids, we really enjoyed it, it's a good feeling, and oops, there's someone from the government. Then it's not for just the sake of the kids, it's for the connection with the government.
Did you annotate it was it just you, or was it more than one person?
Yes, it was just me. So a co-annotator would be needed as well. Yeah. If that.
I do think, yeah, I think if this was like scientific research, I think you'd need several annotators, and then
Yes.
you to look at how reliable and consistent their judgment was. I mean,
absolutely agree.
In the BBC, the BBC's government funded and government owned, but it has statutory duty to be balanced. And of course, both sides in politics, both sides think the BBC is against them.
Mm-hmm.
The BBC will say, well, that means we've got it about right. But I don't know how they measure this. You know, is it so if you were to watch a politics program
Mm-hmm.
at the time, like coming up to an election or a budget announcement or something, you know, the annotators would have quite a job working out, because the annotators themselves have bias. And
Yes.
so,
That's true.
right-wing annotator and a left-wing annotator might have a different view of whether a program is being positive or negative about their.
That's a really interesting and difficult question. First of all, connotation would be very important with others, like annotation agreement over these things. Then it would be scientific, as you mentioned. So this is just basically a pet project, I would say.
Yeah.
But I really love it. The other thing is fear and joy. These are not. I don't think that these are left or right things. These are more fundamental things for the mankind or the human being. And I think I have a suspicion that it would be possible to overcome the party bias just by focusing on if this news was something positive, I felt something positive, or I felt something negative. But it's just a hypothesis.
News can be framed in a positive or negative way. So I remember way back there was some sort of hostage situation, and one channel says, "Good news, they rescued 400 out of the 500 hostages," and the other one was, "Bad news, 100 people died." You know, there's
two sides of totally. Mm-hmm.
I just also, because you're talking about this in the context of information design. I do have a slight worry that data visualization kind of gives authority to data. You know, it's kind of, you don't see the figures really to question them and so on. And so that's why I think you have to be quite careful,
Mm-hmm.
you know, declaring how the judgments are made and looking in and presenting all that.
You are right. I agree.
Can I just also give you one little bit of feedback from the first slide? That I'm very slightly red-green colorblind, and I could not tell the difference in that color coding. One looked a bit green, one looked a bit gray, and I wasn't.
I will check it. I will check it and fix that.
For me to see the difference.
So.
Sorry.
Okay. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah.
I had a question just around the I guess relates to what Rob just said, but but the audience, I apologize, I might have missed this at the start, but when you share this, do you have an audience in mind that you really want to read and absorb your insights?
That's a good question. No, I don't. It's actually really just an exploratory visualization to understand what is happening in the media and does it have any internal structure or pattern that can be shown. So it's not for decision makers, definitely, because they wouldn't care about it. It's more like just for myself or fellow database experts who enjoy seeing things that are otherwise invisible in this way.
I love that. I do that too. I noticed, so I used to work in media monitoring. It was one of my first jobs in government. I work as a contractor now for the province of BC, but one of my very first jobs was in public affairs, and I was doing media monitoring. But there are systems that you can, like, I think there are algorithms that run that do the analysis for you and can tone the stories and will flag keywords. So it sounds like, I mean, I also love doing manual data collection. It's very satisfying, but there might be a system you can use, like some software that will.
Yeah, that's a good possibility. I was not aware such a system in the Hungarian context, so I don't know if the Hungarian language is difficult enough to be excluded from such systems, but it's possible because there are media monitoring companies here as well.
Maybe AI can do it.
AI can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe AI can do it. Yeah.
It can speak any language. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Mihály, you say the people in power wouldn't be interested in it, but I think I think be careful, because the better you the better you hone this project, the more interested they become. And,
yes.
We want you around doing great work like this.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Does it ever occur to you, do you have any worries or anxieties about what might come from the work?
It's no, because I'm here and I'm presenting it. I was there in Vienna and I presented it there. And I mean, my online presence is obviously on I don't know, the uncovering part of society, so, or the investigative part. So not really. Whatever can. I mean, this is an autocracy, so this is not really a democracy, unfortunately, and this is well known across Europe, the States, Canada, everywhere. I don't think it's used for them or whatever, or whoever watches this.
I think it's interesting though, just I could see other people wanting to, like, being inspired by your work and being able to, if you could show like a way for people to replicate your process or your steps to do their own analysis and contribute that to your visualizations. So you start to get this comparison. So a bit of a international group project.
Yes, we discussed it during the conference with guys from Berlin, University of Arts, but I didn't reach out yet. So that's on my bucket list to do it.
I'll watch that. Sorry, am I talking too much? I had another question. Is that okay? It's about your wearable data, your bracelet. Can you just say a bit more about like why choosing a wearable form, and do you play with other kinds of wearable data? Are you interested in doing tattoos?
Yes, I have tattoos, but those are not data based or data related. Actually, we try to find something that is easy to learn and easily can actually replicated by others. So this is kind of a good way to democratize information visualization or data visualization, because sewing beads like this is very, very a fun thing to do, actually. And it requires just, I don't know, a few trial and error type of thingy. And once when we were on holiday for a week, we went to the bead island for a week, and we learned how to do this. And since then we are doing small bracelets, and now we started to move towards bigger stuff, because there is someone from the Inuit community who made beautiful, huge bead blankets, and she visualized gene heat maps, or gene, those traces, or I don't know, how do you call those, whatever, like heat maps.
Yeah.
And those show the problems within her community in relation to genetic disorders, diseases, because it's really a closed kind of community, and they have like problems with it. And she showcased this and put these blankets onto porcelain dogs, because she, as an Inuit person, had dogs when she was a child. And so she brought together these two, and it was beautiful. It was, I think it's at MoMA right now. So it's a beautiful piece of art, and that also inspired us to create a bigger tool, to create bigger things of these, and maybe just experiment with that space a little more.
Very cool. I think weaving is also an interesting, and you can create a loom out of a cardboard box, but I know that there's been, I think, do you know Jer Thorpe? He's
Jared Thorpe?
Jer Thorpe. Yeah, he's Canadian, but he lives in the US. He was the New York Times data artist in residence. He was their first one, but his mom is a weaver, and she ended up weaving a data set for him. And it's so interesting to see that just the different media that people can use for visualizing data. He's a very interesting guy, Jer Thorpe.
Jer Thorpe. I will look him up. It's very beautiful because these traditional techniques of creation can be a medium for data visualization representation. And I have a student who is in the incubation program at the university, and she uses these wall carpets with her grandma to weave together meteorological weather data visualizations and basically traditional Hungarian symbols of clothes, or like roses, birds, and so on and so forth. So it's beautiful. Bye, Rob.
If you ever want to play with somebody, bye, Rob. If you ever want to connect with a Canadian, I do data visualization here, but I would love to, if you ever need somebody to work with, or I just love talking about data viz.
Super. Okay.
And I don't get to do much like the physical data. I don't get to do much because in government, it's not official.
It's
not make a bracelet, but it's something that I would like to do more of, and comic forms and just different things. So this has been really inspiring for me.
I'll reach out on LinkedIn then.
Yes, I'm there. I just joined after the summer school. So I have very few followers, but I'm on there. So this has been great. Thank you so much for just the opportunity to hear more.
The Triple ID conversation has actually served its purpose to its fullest if we've connected two people to continue to work with each other. So
I would love that.
That's excellent.
So, cool.
We'll find a way.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here, Mihály. And we look forward to any future cooperations and presentations that come out of this. So thank you very much for today. And we hope to see you again at our next conversation, or wherever, somewhere in the world.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward meeting you again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.